Hello, my name is Sorrel Reisman, and I'm the Managing Director of a project and a system called Merlot, the Multimedia Educational Resource for Learning and Online Teaching. This is a project that's been sponsored by the California State University system. I'm also a professor of information systems at California State University at Fullerton, and I'm an open educational resource Fulbright specialist. Today, I want to give you an overview of the system called Merlot, which is a repository and a community for finding open educational resources, sometimes called OERs. In this description, I'm going to talk about how you find OERs in Merlot through our search functionality. I'm going to talk about how the resources are actually added into the collection. Then I'm going to discuss the community nature of Merlot and how we ensure the quality of the learning materials that you find in Merlot. And lastly, I'm going to speak about the international implications of using Merlot around the world. Firstly, the Merlot vision. Merlot seeks to be a premier online community where faculty, staff, and students from around a continually changing world share their learning materials and pedagogy. So the most noteworthy aspects of our system is that we are, first of all, a community, and second of all, it's a community that's built around a collection, a database collection of things called learning materials, learning objects, sometimes called open education resources or OERs. I'm going to give you a very quick history of Merlot. We're almost 20 years old, having started in 1997. It was invented at California State University in Sonoma, which is in Northern California, sometimes called the wine country. Some professors at Sonoma State, another name for the university, they say we're sitting around in a bar drinking wine, happened to have been Merlot wine or Merlot grapes, and they came up with this idea on a napkin, and one of them said to the other, "This is a great idea. What should we call this?" And the other said, "Why don't we call it Merlot?" Then they decided, can't really name a system after a wine. Let's call it Merlot, but let's make Merlot be an acronym for Multimedia Educational Resource for Learning and Online Teaching. Now, 20 years later, Merlot has been around, and we now have a collection of almost 80,000 materials and 147,000 registered members. The system has continued to change over the 20 years, and as recently as this month in July 2017, the system has been enhanced with something called a Smart Search, which I'm going to show you a little bit more of in a few minutes. So what exactly are OERs? This is short, an acronym for Open Educational Resources. And when we talk about and use the word open, oftentimes it's misused. Here are three categories of open that we often talk about. Open source. Open source, or OS, as shown here, refers only to software. So if somebody is talking about open source books, that's an incorrect use of the words because open source is software. Open access, yet another kind of openness, refers to published material, either journal articles or textbooks. So software is not open access, it's open source. Journal articles or textbooks that can be categorized as open access. Finally, we have this topic called Open Educational Resources, OER. And underneath this, you can see three examples of OER: open courseware, open textbooks, or something called open learning objects. So online courses can be OERs. Even open textbooks or open access textbooks can be OERs. And finally, something called learning objects can be OERs. But note that these are not all even or equal. Why do we even contemplate using the concept of openness? Well, there are benefits of openness for both instructors and for students. So for instructors or researchers, for example, we build on the work of others. So the work that we do, the publications that we have, the research that we accomplish, we make it available and open so that subsequent researchers and instructors can take our work and build on it and develop their own uh, kinds of materials based on what they've gotten from previous developers. Openness is also great for students because if things are open, that means they're available, and oftentimes they can make the students' learning experience a lot simpler because it's a lot less expensive to find materials that are open, and usually there are a lot more materials that a student can use if they can find open education resources. So anyway, there is a very specific definition for open education resources, and it came from this UNESCO forum called Open Educational Resources that was held in 2002. It was a forum funded by the Hewlett Foundation, and this Hewlett Foundation has been a great supporter of OERs in the last 15 years, ever since this forum was first held. Well, OERs can be described or was described by the UNESCO Forum as digitized teaching and learning materials offered freely and openly for educators, students, and self-learners to use and reuse without charge for teaching, learning, and research. So this means these are materials that you find online for instructional or learning purposes. When you find them, you can use them and reuse them for free and use them for your own instructional and research. OERs also have to reside in the public domain, but when you find them, they must have some kind of intellectual property license that tells you what exactly you can do with an OER that you've discovered. Let's go to Merlot and see how we can find open education resources that are appropriate to your instructional use or learning use. The website for Merlot is www.merlot.org, and here is the home page of Merlot. And each one of those blocks with an image in it is called a tile. And each tile is clickable and it takes you to another page where a set of functions is available. However, today in this instructional module, we're really only going to talk about searching. So I've put a little indicator around the search tile. If you click on that search tile, it takes you to this page, and you can see there are a number of things that one can search for in Merlot. Materials, members, etc. We're going to do the simplest kind of search now called the keyword search. In the top right-hand corner of every single page in Merlot, there is a keyword search box. The same box on every page. In the example we're going to follow right now, we're going to type into that keyword search box the word reading. Merlot will then search its library and come up with 3 possible places to search. The default place, which you're looking at right now, is the Merlot collection. And you can see that there are 5,299 results in the Merlot collection, all related to the word reading, keyword reading. If you want to see this hit list of the almost 5,300 materials contains, as I said, learning materials only in the Merlot collection. So let's look at the first one a little bit, Zen and the Art of Internet Reading and Writing. If you click on that URL, it will take you to another page called the Material Detail page, on which you can see a great many details about this particular material. And if you click on that URL of the other items in the hit list, like reading, music, etc., I'll do the same thing for each of those. Notice in the box on the right, to the right of click to see more materials, even on this hit list page, there's some information about a little more detailed information about this item, Zen and the Art of Internet Reading and Writing. But if you click to see more materials, this material detail page has a lot more information, detail about this particular learning material. So for example, on the right-hand side, you can see that this material has been peer reviewed, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. There are also user ratings, sometimes called crowdsourced reviews, similar to the stars that you would get or you do get when you use Amazon.com. Um, every one of these materials has also associated with a threaded discussion. So if you wanted to initiate or participate in a discussion about Zen and the art of internet reading and writing, if you were to click on the discussion link to the right here under quality, it will take you to the threaded discussion related to this particular learning material. If you want to go and see the material itself, if you click on Go to the Material, it takes you to this URL. Note that this URL is no longer in Merlot. That's because Merlot only hosts the metadata or the descriptive material related to learning materials. Merlot does not, with a few exceptions, does not host the learning materials themselves. So this CIS 275 topics learning material is actually hosted somewhere else, somewhere in the cloud. And when you click on Go to Material in Merlot, you leave Merlot and you go to this website. Now we're back at the hit list that we generated when we searched for the word reading. And across the top, we've just looked on the left side of this little red indicator box, and we've just looked at the Merlot collection. If we were to click on this other collections that has been circled here on this web page, a set of other libraries similar to the library of Merlot is searched for the word reading. And on the left side, you can see the list of libraries that are searched. This hit list is different than the other one because this hit list is generated by finding materials in the list of libraries on the left-hand side. For each item in the hit list for other collections, you can see on the right-hand side an icon showing which library the learning material came from. So for example, writing and reading the essay, etc., came from the MIT OpenCourseWare library. If you were to scroll down this hit list, you would see materials from all the libraries. However, if you wanted to see materials only from a particular library, for example, on the left-hand side, IEEE Computer Society, if you were to click on that particular link, then the hit list would change to materials related to the word reading only from the IEEE Computer Society digital library. Finally, if you were to click on the link The Web, Merlot's Smart Search searches the World Wide Web for items related to the word reading. And you can see on the left-hand side circled, there are different academic disciplines which you can use as a filter to filter this hit list of 100 results. It's important to know that this particular search we call the Smart Search because when Merlot searches the web for a keyword such as reading, the search is predicated on the searcher being or having a profile typical of a Merlot user. This profile is one that the Merlot team has developed. We call it our secret sauce, something like the Coca-Cola recipe, where the search, as I said, is predicated on characteristics of a typical Merlot user. Another search that we have in Merlot is called the ISBN search, and you can see this green indicator around the ISBN search materials by ISBN. If you were to type in there an ISBN number, as I've done here, and it will generate, Merlot will search and generate a hit list in the Merlot collection of all materials related to the content of the textbook for which that ISBN number exists. You can see here this little cutout of Amazon where I've typed in that same ISBN just to show you that there is this book that I happen to be editor of. And if you type that ISBN into the ISBN search of Merlot, as the box below the Merlot screen capture shows, there are 815 results related to that book. On the left side of the hit list, which I've indicated with a red circle, there are many different kinds of materials that are available in Merlot. So of those 815 materials related to this particular textbook, there's a whole list of different kinds of material types. So if you were looking for supplementary materials for a particular textbook of different media, online courses, videos, etc., by doing the search on the ISBN number and then clicking in here in any one of those material types, you can find the kinds of materials that you're looking for. Also in Merlot, we happen to have open access textbooks, which are OERs. So if you type an ISBN number in for a particular textbook, you might find an open access textbook in this hit list where that open access textbook, an OER, free, might be a replacement for the textbook for which you typed in the ISBN. Textbooks are quite expensive for students, and if you were able to find an open access equivalent through this search, you might be able to adopt a book equivalent to or similar to the one you were searching on, and then be able to adopt a free version or a lesser expensive version for your students. Note too that there are online courses available as a material type. So if you're looking for supplementary materials related to a textbook that students can use for homework assignments, etc., you might be able to find them through this kind of search. Let's talk about the quality of Merlot resources. Merlot is unique because all the materials in Merlot are curated to one degree or another. The most serious kind of curation is called peer review, and peer review is carried out by a structure that we have called editorial boards. Here is a list of editorial boards for which that Merlot has that all the materials are curated by. Each one of the academic disciplines in this list is led by a group of volunteer subject matter experts. The editorial boards that we have the subject matter experts are organized into editorial boards that are like journal editorial boards. The purpose of the editorial board, as I mentioned, is to review and validate collection submissions. So the editor, subject matter expert of an editorial board, is a volunteer professor somewhere probably. He has a board, a set of board members with associate editors, and a set of peer reviewers, all subject matter experts. These folks review and do the so-called peer review of materials that are submitted or contributed to Merlot in their particular academic discipline. One other thing about an editorial board, in addition to having its set of reviewers, etc., each editorial board has in Merlot something called an academic discipline community portal. Because each discipline believes or may believe that their way of using learning materials is different than another academic discipline, we've provided one portal for each of the academic disciplines, allowing each discipline to demonstrate how their own discipline might use learning materials to teach their subject matter. So for example, we have an academic discipline called physics. Physics may believe that how they use online materials is different than another academic discipline such as mathematics. So discipline has its own portal, mathematics has its own portal, and how each of them display the different usage of learning materials may be different for the portals, is shown in the portals. How are these peer reviews and editorial boards different from a journal? First of all, a Merlot editorial board evaluates teaching materials and not research articles. Peer reviewers in Merlot receive peer review training. Usually, people who review articles for academic journals do not receive training. We do this because we believe that it's important to be able to understand the nature of online materials, which is different, of course, than a journal article. When a learning material has been reviewed by a set of peer reviewers, we work with the author or developer of the learning material if there are improvements that we feel are necessary or should be done to a learning material, we work with the author of the learning material to improve it. So the peer reviewers actually, in some sense, are like mentors for authors of learning materials. Like a journal, we also have a fairly sophisticated peer review management system, and a major difference between us and a journal is that we actually publish or display online the peer reviews that are done by the subject matter experts. Normally, if you read a journal article, all you really know about the journal article, it's probably been peer reviewed, but you never get to see the peer reviews. We, however, attempt to work with the author to improve the material, and then we actually publish the peer reviews on the material detail page of materials that have been reviewed. Here are two of our most recent academic community portals and academic disciplines that we've added to our set of 25. One is computer science and the other is information technology or information systems. The taxonomies, or the way by which we catalog materials in each of those disciplines, is consistent with the course curricula topics that have been defined by the IEEE ACM CSAB curricular committees. CSAB is the accrediting body for computer science and information systems technology undergraduate programs, mainly in the United States, but increasingly around the world. This means that if you are teaching in either of these disciplines in an accredited institution, and you are teaching, for example, networking, and you go to Merlot and you search for something to do with networking, then the hits that you're going to collect, the hit list is going to be aligned with the networking curricula that are defined by the CSAB committees. Here we have an example of the Information Technology Community Portal, and you can see, this is particularly noteworthy, that this portal, as well as the Computer Science Portal, both the portals have been endorsed by the IEEE Computer Society and the IEEE Education Society. People often ask, where do our materials come from? Well, they come from two main sources, one of them by individual members and one by partner institutions. Firstly, anybody can come to Merlot and search. You don't have to log in, you don't have to register to search. And usage of Merlot is entirely free. However, if you do choose to become a member of Merlot, again, it's free. There are many things that you can do besides search. One of them is to contribute directly to the collection. Another thing you can do is use the Merlot Content Builder, which is a website development tool which Merlot inherited from the Carnegie Foundation, to build websites that, in fact, Merlot hosts. The third thing you can do with Merlot is build a course e-portfolio, and we have tools that enable you to do that. So you can contribute a material that you might discover on the World Wide Web, or you might be building yourself. You can contribute the metadata, the description of that learning material, to the Merlot collection. Or you can use the Content Builder to build a learning material and contribute that to the collection. Or you can develop, using our tools, a course e-portfolio, and that too would be a learning material in the collection. Finally, here, we have something called partner institutions. I said that Merlot is a community. Merlot is also a consortium with partner institutions from around the world. Oftentimes, a partner will have a collection of learning materials that they would like to include in the Merlot collection. So we have methodologies and tools that enable us to batch input large numbers of learning materials from a member or partner institution into the Merlot collection. Let's look at a direct contribution. So here is the Merlot homepage, www.merlot.org. You can see I've encircled the tile Add to Collection. If you were to click there, it takes you to this page. On this page, we have the three different ways, three different kinds of contributing to the collection. In the bottom right-hand corner, you can create a course e-portfolio. Above that, you can go to the content builder and start building a website, learning material. Or the top left-hand corner, the one I'm going to show you right now, is how you can submit an individual material directly online. If you were to click on that tile, it would take you to a screen that looks like this. The screen's too long to show in a PowerPoint slide, so I've cut it into two parts, the left and the right part. You can see here, in order to submit a material, really what you're doing is you're filling in a few fields that describe the characteristics of the learning material. And these four items here on the left with the red arrows pointing at them are the minimum fields that you have to complete. One is the URL. Where in the World Wide Web does the learning material reside? What title would you like to give it? This is searched when you do a search. What's the academic discipline that this material can be categorized as? And then a brief abstract for people to, when they find the material in a hit list, they can get some idea of what this material is about. These fields, plus others, are searched by our search algorithms when you execute the keyword search. In the description of what an OER is, it talks about, that description talked about the learning material needs to be in the public domain and have an intellectual property license. The typical intellectual property license for online materials is defined by the Creative Commons organization. And Merlot subscribes to Creative Commons in many different ways. This green arrow here shows you that it would be helpful if, when someone submits a learning material, if they knew what the Creative Commons license is, that they indicate it here. That way, too, when you go to search for materials in Merlot using our advanced search, you can search using the keyword, but in the advanced search, if you wanted to search only for materials with a particular kind of Creative Commons license, it's easy to do that. Now, a final comment regarding Merlot's international utility. A few years ago, when Merlot was first invented, it only operated in the English language. But we made significant changes to it 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. Now, materials can be submitted to Merlot in any language. And if you're operating with a keyboard of some foreign country, any foreign country, you can search for Merlot using that keyboard. Or you can enter data in your foreign language using that keyboard. In addition, all Merlot materials, all Merlot web pages can be translated to any language using Google Translate. It's an option that's available at the bottom of every single page in Merlot. Because Google is not allowed in the People's Republic of China, and we want Merlot to be used there, to be able to be used there, we disable that functionality for the PRC. Finally, Merlot does have a set of APIs, interfaces, that allow people who have their own web application to interface directly to Merlot through our APIs. So, for example, if you wanted to develop or to link to Merlot from, again, let's say a Chinese language website, our APIs can be integrated into that website, and the functionality of Merlot accessed directly in the Chinese language from the Chinese application, rather than from Merlot.org, which could be translated into Chinese also. If your university has a faculty development portal, Merlot APIs can be integrated there so that your faculty development portal can allow faculty users to get to Merlot, search Merlot, etc. directly from that portal. So those are the basics of Merlot. There's really a lot more there. You really need to visit Merlot.org and try the different functions. You should really, too, join Merlot in order to be able to use the things beyond searching. And remember, whatever you do in Merlot, it's all free. So have fun when you use it, and happy teaching and happy learning.